A story. The initials A.B. Ada married Harry. She thought that for a Harry, he was pretty elegant. The name, well, Harry, but he elegant. She never knew much about him, really. He was very reluctant to talk about his background, but she did learn he had roots in England. And his mother had been a lovely woman. Unfortunately, she had passed away just after they married. While they were on honeymoon, Harry presented Ada with the most beautiful ring. It was an opal in a little nest of rubies. She liked that ring. She was a gregarious public school teacher, and she liked to flourish the ring, show it off a little. She said to him, "What side of your family is the ring from?" And he had said, "My father's." Well, they had 8 + 1 wonderful years in East York, in a little bungalow, before Harry took very, very ill, and he died. Well, she was entirely unconsolable. She couldn't do a thing. And her 2 sisters, one from Newmarket, one from Richmond Hill, came down steadily, faithfully, coaxed her to even want to live again on her own. And then, about a year later, she decided, Ada did, that she would retire from public school teaching and take a trip. She liked to wonder about Harry, you see. Kind of kept him alive to wonder about those roots in England. She decided to go on a trip with a small group of retired school teachers, and they would visit a lot of the older areas, of course so many in England. But she knew that Harry had some links in the Somerset area. And so before you knew it, she was planning. But before she planned, she decided to go and have her ring looked at and cleaned for the trip. And when she took it to the jeweler in Don Mills, he said to her, had she ever noticed the tiny, tiny inscription on it? And she said, "No, I've not." And he said, "It is the initials A.B. And, my dear lady, it's very old, very English old. And there you are. You have a lovely ring." Well, she was delighted. She knew it was a beautiful ring, and as I mentioned to you earlier, she liked to flourish it at every possible occasion because it was so pretty. And before she knew it, she was on a trip to England with Harry on her heart still, looking, wondering. One of the places they stopped was in a place called Moor Lynch, tiny hamlet near Bridgewater in Somerset. And because the afternoon was idle and lovely and neither too hot nor too cold, the man who was conducting the tour said, "I know what to do. Why don't you tour the old vicarage? It's 12th century. It was a Henry VIII Roman Catholic, St. Mary the Virgin was, and then became our C of E, or Anglican as you call it, our Church of England. You have the afternoon to ramble about, ladies." Well, she was very pleased to be in this very old English area. Some of the ladies chose to wander through the vicarage, where they heard that the young wife there decades ago, circa 1912, refused to have her baby there because it was so cold, and she only would have her children at her mother's home. It was so cold in 1912, they say the rugs lifted from the floor. Some of the other ladies wandered in the pretty cemetery. You might say the gravestones were a tad alert, and they were white, and there were tiny white shells and white stones around them, and people were taking pictures, and it was lovely, and there were begonias in a garden and a fig tree beside the vicarage. Ada liked music. And what did she hear coming from the church, because it was a Saturday? But someone, I gather the organist, practicing and playing All Things Bright and Beautiful. Well, she went to the tour guide and she said, "I'd like to go in and listen, you know, I love music, and I'd just like to go in and listen to the organist." "Go right ahead, my dear lady, there's lots of time." We'll all be heading down to the pub soon. Don't forget we're in apple cider country. You can join us for a nice curry or something in perhaps an hour. We'll be there just waiting and enjoying. And so she went into the church. It was Saturday. The organist was practicing. The organist was a woman wearing a brown and blue headscarf. She had no teeth. She was an odd-looking little soul. Ada went up, and because they were hearing the music of All Things Bright and Beautiful, she flourished her ring a little, which of course was bright and beautiful. And when the organist looked up, she startled, and she said, "Oh my goodness." And Ada said, "What?" "Sorry, am I bothering you while you're practicing for tomorrow?" "Oh no, ma'am, your ring. It's on the painting in the basement." "I'm sorry?" "Oh, just a moment now." And the little woman got up, and when she got up, she might as well have been sitting because she was so tiny. And she led the way through a green door. She flicked on a wobbly light. And the walls of the old church going downstairs to the basement were like white cheese. And in the basement languished a painting. And it was a sorry painting of St. Mary the Virgin Church where Ada was. But at the lower right of the painting, peeled away, standing underneath the top painting, was a beautiful woman's hand, wearing Ada's ring. The vicar came clomping down. He'd heard the music cease and just wanted to say, "Well, hello, what's going on there?" He was a red-faced man, cheeks like apples. I'd mentioned this is apple country. He came down and he said, "Well, good afternoon, and what are you doing here?" "Well, I'm just visiting from Canada. My late husband, Harry, had British roots." And then the little organist entirely took over and wrung the conversation and said, "Hey, look, sir. Look, vicar. Her ring is that of the woman in the painting. You do have the ring of the woman in the painting, wherever." "I told you my husband had British roots. I've no idea." "Well, listen, my dear lady. May I make you a gift to welcome you to England? Take the painting. The bishop told me to get rid of it. It just languishes here. We British find it so hard to get rid of a thing, and I don't want it any more. They say take it away. Would you like it?" "Oh, certainly, I'd like it a lot." "Well, then take it. Take it with my blessing." And then before you knew it, the little tour was in London, and they were staying at a pretty good hotel, and Ada had the painting. And she saw a sign down the way from the hotel, and it said Richard Cooper, appraiser. She went in with her painting. "Could you clean this up for me and let me know if it's worth? You'll see that most of it is a painting of an old church I visited, and this part here is a hand." "Oh yes, I can do it for you. I can do it within 3 days. I'm pretty good at my craft." "I'll be here in 3 days. I don't have longer than that really, though, because I'm on a tour." "Do come, madam, and I'll be very, very careful with your painting." "Thank you." She went back to the hotel, and she foraged London with the other ladies, but all the while in her mind she was thinking, my ring from Harry. What does it mean?" 3 days later, and no later than that, and no earlier, she walked into Mr. Cooper's fine appraising store, art renovator, and she went in, and he was at the desk, quaking moderately. She went up to him. "You do remember me? I have your ticket here." "Oh, yes, madam. Yes, madam, I do have your painting, and it did clean up nicely. I have something to tell you." "What?" "The painting, dear lady, is of Anne Boleyn." "Anne Boleyn?" "Yes, one of Henry VIII's wives, my dear lady. And as I was cleaning it very painstakingly, on the back I found a pocket of canvas and old linens." Mr. Cooper stood bolt upright. He read to her what was in the little note at the back of the painting. It was in feminine, fluttery handwriting. Old handwriting. To whoever may see my portrait, I do wish to tell you that I do not have much longer to live. I am sitting here in this lovely portrait. Henry is not happy with me. I will never bear the son that he wanted. Therefore it is the end of me. However, I will cast one thing to eternity. You will see my little ring, my dear little ring of the opal in the nest of rubies. I will hurl it from the window when I leave the artist's studio, and it will go into eternity, for now a cobblestone street, and that will be me, Anne Boleyn. You see, madam, quite astounding. You are wearing Anne Boleyn's ring. Yes, well, I'm also putting it together now, my husband, my British husband. He came from these parts, in Somerset and so. And I do believe it was probably a great ancestor of his that would have picked it up on the cobblestones and kept it, of course hoarded it likely, until my husband finally relented in love and gave it to me to wear. Well, there you go, madam. You're wearing history. We've solved the mystery. No, not quite. Whatever do you mean? Mr. Cooper looked startled. Well, there's one thing that is outstanding. I don't know why. My middle name is Boleyn.